think a lot more developers going into 2024 are going to stop putting games on Game Pass because of that very reason. Oh, fuck!
What's going on?
The Last of Us factions just got canceled.
Are you serious?
Okay, well, what can you tell us about this new standalone multiplayer game?
What I can tell you is that this game is big.
Okay.
It's as big as any of our single-player games that we've done, and in some ways bigger.
This is some pretty impressively bad news. Also, they've disabled all replies.
We realize many of you have been anticipating news around the project that we have been calling The Last of Us Online.
No, not really.
There's no easy way to say this. We have made the incredibly difficult decision to stop development on that game.
So people are going to read this. Well, okay, that means they're just going to focus back to single-player narrative games. That's what I want. That's what I always wanted them to do anyway. Oh, no problem for me. This is great news to me. A bunch of you bald bozers are going to say that. I sure. Oh, I didn't want this anyway. Back to single-player games, which is great. Dick suckers.
Sometimes we wanna get high, sometimes we gotta start low. Some people think they're gonna die someday. I've got news, you've never got to go. Well, unless you're the Last of Us factions, of course. Ted Nugent didn't account for that. And neither did the PlayStation guys. See, we were expecting them to hold off on the Last of Us factions. We just didn't think they were gonna hold off for 3 years. And then finally, when they told us it was put on hold, we knew it wouldn't take long before news was delivered to us that the entire thing would be canceled. And you know what? I told myself, I made a promise. I said, Frit, the day that happens, you are going to have to frame it on your wall. Oh, come on, Fritta. Are you really that petty? Yes, I am. It's all thanks to J-Dub and his extra chromosomes that I'm able to wake up every morning with this beautiful husky next to me, who for every click on the subscribe button I get, gets a boop on the nose. If you want this husky to get as many boops on the nose as possible, then hit subscribe now. Like I said, I get to wake up next to this gorgeous boy with my shiny new Steam Deck OLED in hand, and there, across the room, hanging on the wall, the poorest age tweet of them all. You have no idea how much this gets me off.
And I admit I do too.
I have problems. I need help.
Did this mofo hang a picture of me and my tweet on his whole wall? We knew he was a weirdo. The cuck in a basement dweller, but damn, this takes the cake. Hashtag Adam22 Jr.
Oh, he's getting mad.
But whatever, it's done. It's framed. It's up on the wall. I guess I'm gonna start building a collection. But sadly, no matter how hard I try, it won't be anywhere near as impressive as the collection of apologies the industry has continued to hand out this generation. We're on a roll here. I mean, wow. I may as well make a mural out of this and also frame it on my wall. Oh, come on, Frit, you've already gotten to the best parts of the video, and you haven't even told us exactly what happened yet. Well, it's pretty self-explanatory, isn't it? Late evening yesterday, Naughty Dog officially announced on their Twitter page, yes, the Naughty Dog, not a parody account, the official, the real one, and you knew it had to be good news when they disabled the comments.
We realize many of you have been anticipating news around the project that we've been calling The Last of Us Online. There's no easy way to say that. We've made the incredibly difficult decision to stop development on that game. We know this news will be tough for many, especially our dedicated The Last of Us factions community, who have been following our multiplayer ambitions ardently. We're equally crushed at the studio as we were looking forward to putting it in your hands. We wanted to share with you some background of how we came to this decision. The multiplayer team has been in pre-production with this game since we were working on The Last of Us Part 2, crafting an experience we felt was unique and had tremendous potential. As the multiplayer team iterated on their concept for The Last of Us Online during this time, their vision crystallized, the gameplay got more refined and satisfying, and we were enthusiastic about the direction in which we were headed. In ramping up to full production, the massive scope of our ambition became clear. To release and support The Last of Us Online, we have to put all our studio resources behind supporting post-launch content for years to come, severely impacting development on future single-player games. So, we had two paths in front of us: become a solely live service game studio, or continue to focus on single-player narrative games that have defined Naughty Dog's heritage. We are immensely proud of everyone at the studio that touched this project. The learnings and investments in technology from this game will carry into how we develop our projects and will be invaluable in the direction we are headed as a studio. We have more than one ambitious, brand new single-player game that we're working on here at Naughty Dog, and we cannot wait to share more about what comes next when we're ready. Until then, we're incredibly thankful to our community for your support throughout the years.
Thank you for the monies! You can't have it back! I like it! It's nice! It's my monies now! High five!
Really? And this is supposed to be the studio? The ones who crafted the greatest story of all time? The same Naughty Dog that had no trouble releasing multiplayer alongside their previous video game entries during the PS3 era? That Naughty Dog is somehow unable to support a game that would require updates in the future as a live service. Are you kidding me? Yeah, no, we can't put together something that we will continue to support for years, but you know what we can do? We can do a TV show. We can do a remake of our first game. Hell, you know what? Let's even remaster the second game. And we'll sprinkle in a roguelike mode for your ungrateful asses. You don't know how hard we work here at Naughty Dog? Bro! All I gotta say, man, is not even 343. 343's launch of Halo Infinite was a complete disaster, which haunts the game to this day and severely hurt the Xbox brand's reputation. But you know what? They still managed to have multiplayer launch right next to their single player. We're talking about an incompetent studio. Naughty Dog is a competent studio. Expectations are far higher, and they want to come out with this bullshit and tell you, yeah, you know, if we make a multiplayer game, it means we can't make anything else. Yeah, that is a lie. The truth is, Naughty Dog's multiplayer must have not been cooking whatsoever. That concept art that was shown to us by Neil was probably the only thing anybody saw. There was no Factions 2. There is no Queen of England. We were lied to. Well, I don't know why I say we. You were lied to. Look, Naughty Dog, if you didn't want to make the multiplayer, just say that, okay? You didn't want to do the project. Don't come in here trying to manipulate everybody else and treating your own audience like they're stupid. When AA games or indie games that basically have no budgets are able to launch their multiplayer and single player at the same time and continue to support those games, even with no player count or financial support, you've got no excuses. What is going on at Sony headquarters? What's going on with Bungie? I mean, seriously. I'm not saying this to put down PlayStation as a brand. I'm just being real with you. The multiplayer scene is dead in the water. First-party multiplayer games practically don't exist on the PlayStation platform. And say what you want about Nintendo and Xbox, but they have a plethora of first-party multiplayer games for people to play. Meanwhile, it seems like Sony can't get a single first-party multiplayer game up off the ground. Naughty Dog wants to tell us that 9 years ago, that was the only time they were able to release a single-player game alongside a multiplayer game. But now in 2023, oh God forbid, they couldn't do that. It would interfere too much with their other projects. Yeah, who's supposed to be the quote-unquote best developer in the industry cannot do one of the most basic tasks. Come on, Naughty Dog, you really expect us to believe you? At the very least, show the people why it didn't work. The real reasons will actually sound a lot more excusable. I bet you anything, because this statement had me falling on the floor. You're really trying to convince everyone here that you, of all the studios under Sony's wing, don't have the resources to pull this off? Come on. And then on top of that, placing this ultimatum on yourself, like somehow having to update Factions 2 means you will no longer be a single player developer. Releasing one multiplayer game means we have to choose whether we're gonna be live service or to continue focus on single player narratives. Come on. This is the worst possible excuse ever. Nobody's falling for it. You deceived people for 3 years, and this is how you try to wiggle your way out of it? This is not okay. Oh, but you know that clip that rolled at the beginning of my intro where Broken Games HD was practically predicting what ponies were gonna say and how they were gonna offend it?
People are gonna read this. Well, okay, that means they're just gonna focus back to single player narrative games. That's what I want. That's what I always wanted them to do anyway. Oh, no problem for me. This is great news to me. A bunch of you bald bozers are gonna say that. I sure. Oh, I didn't want this anyway. Back to single player game.
I'm so glad that when it came down to the two choices, they made the one majority ones from Naughty Dog, man. Also knowing they are working on more than one new single player game is a win, man.
No problem for me. This is great news to me. A bunch of you bald bozers are gonna say that. I sure.
Oh great, it's the one Puerto Rican that doesn't have a Puerto Rican flag next to his name. Unfortunately, he still carries that representation in his username. Apologies to all my fellow Puerto Ricanos. This is not the face you want repping that flag. But just like Broken Games HD said, right on the money, word for word, exactly. That played out exactly like he had predicted. A pony knows a pony, and the stables are running wild right now. They don't know what to do. They don't know if they should take Naughty Dog's word on it and defend them, or if they should actually do what a normal person would and call out Naughty Dog. No, there's gotta be a silver lining in not having your multiplayer game. We gotta search for one. There must be one somewhere, right? I mean, what's the benefit in me not getting a multiplayer game I was promised for 3 years? Well, I'll get other games years later. Oh, dude. This is so retarded. This is the same fool that went hard on 343 for missing a lot of key features in their multiplayer game. Yeah, when it comes to Naughty Dog not releasing a multiplayer game whatsoever, it's seen as a net positive. This is how the mind of a PlayStation fanboy works. I want you to see it. Witness it for yourself in real time. Do not deny me ever again. I know what I'm talking about. And these people are crazy! 1 year ago, Neil Druckmann walks out on stage with Jeff Keighley and promises you that they're going to deliver a huge-ass multiplayer game that's quite possibly bigger than their single-player game, hyping you up. And a year later, you so nonchalantly just dismiss the fact that those promises were made. I don't understand how someone like Puerto Rock, who doesn't play on Xbox, can be so angry at what they do, and yet be so casual about what Sony does to him on the system he plays on that does affect him. It doesn't make any goddamn sense.
The writing has been on the wall for The Last of Us Online after recent reports about it, and so this formal cancellation isn't a surprise. I certainly don't mind Naughty Dog continuing to focus on what it does best, making incredible single-player games.
Yes, Ryan, and you go back to doing what you're good at. Damage controlling for the gaming industry as hard as possible. I'm not looking to throw shade at Mr. Matty Plays, but earlier yesterday he put out a tweet asking people to tell him what we love about games in order to counteract all the negativity going around. And to that I have to tell you, Matty, the industry doesn't deserve anyone's kindness. This has been the most undercooked and underdelivered generation in video game history. So many broken, unfinished, unplayable video games, and some of those don't even get off the ground. Some of those are just canceled. This is the age of disappointment, and I don't want to pretend like we're having such a positive outlook on all of it. Some folks seem to forget there is such a thing as toxic positivity. And it's no more evident than all the discourse around The Last of Us factions. Not from Mr. Matty, of course, but from Ryan, from Bletterock, and from more ponies who are trying to look for the positive in all of this. It's okay to call out Sony. It's okay to be upset. Nobody has to pretend like things are fine, because they're not.
Naughty Dog decided on their own before the live service push from Sony to separate Factions 2 as a standalone. They've also decided on their own to not become a live service studio. But Sony doesn't know what they're doing and their live service plan is failing. Got it.
Well, I don't know, you tell me, Reforge, when you can't get a multiplayer for The Last of Us 2 off the ground for over 3 years and over 14 teams there to help you, it sounds to me like your live service is failing. Naughty Dogs themselves saying they can't do it, Sony taking too long to can the entire project. Yeah, it doesn't sound like they know what they're doing. How Reforge Gaming managed to leave with more confidence after reading Naughty Dog's statement is beyond me. If I was a PlayStation-only gamer, I would have zero confidence at this point. Well, then again, that confidence would have ended with The Last of Us 2 in general, but canning the multiplayer that was supposed to come along with it? Yeah, that doesn't leave me hopeful for future titles. How does that get anybody excited?
But the conversation is just not that simple. And anybody who believes the conversation is that simple, where we should just be mad at Naughty Dog and disappointed, and that's it, that's where it ends, you're not paying attention. And that's fine. You don't have to pay attention, but believe me, there is a lot more to this than maybe meets the eye for people. And that's what I'm most interested in.
No, MPG, that's exactly where it should end. Being upset at Sony and Naughty Dog and ending it there. Because nothing else here is the consumer's fault. It's not up to them to figure out why it happened. They were all misled for 3 years. 3 fucking years. They have every right to be upset. Every PlayStation fan voicing their displeasure is handling the situation perfectly fine. No other developer in the industry gets this treatment. Naughty Dog isn't more special than anyone else. And you know what? It is for that very same reason I'm going to leave this J-Dub tweet framed up on my wall. You know how many people that pissed off? You know how many people were tweeting at me, "Oh, look at this loser, I can't believe it. So petty." You're goddamn right. If you didn't want to cry about it now, you should have kept your goddamn mouth shut. But your ponies can't help yourself, can you? You gotta run your mouths 24/7. Well, now you gotta deal with this portrait being hung up on my wall, and there's not a goddamn thing any of you can do about it. You ain't gonna do shit. So sit there and cry about your empty roadmap. With that being said, you should all consider liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing if you so choose to. And I'll see you in the next one.
Afrikango sucks ass.